Agencies are a tool. If you're thinking about using an agency for strategy and then execution, you're just using them wrong. You have to come up with a strategy and then you figure out which tool to basically use for that. Relying on them to do your marketing strategy is probably a pretty quick plan to just not succeed.
I have no intro for this episode because if you've been following the podcast, you've already seen my intro with Behdad Jamshidi from CJAM Marketing. In our last interview, he walked us through how to vet and hire virtual CMOs. And today he's back to walk us through how to vet and hire marketing agencies. So welcome back to the show, Behdad.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, this is good. I like the first conversation because I think it brought a lot of value to people who want to hire a virtual CMO. And I think there's probably even more organizations out there that are actively vetting and hiring marketing agencies. So this is even more timely for us to talk about that. The people who did see the last episode, just give a quick brief on like, who are you and what you do?
Yeah. So my background, the quick brief of it is I used to be an engineer. I used to work with medium-sized companies, doing a lot of business consulting, understanding things from like a C-level perspective, and then matching them to the right technology solutions of how to get from A to B to C through that adoption. On the other side of the fence, on the marketing side, I'm a super connector in the marketing space. I realized there was a big gap between different marketing agencies and businesses where marketing agencies didn't really understand business and business people didn't really understand marketing. And so seeing that gap, I was like, oh, maybe if there was someone in the middle to help bridge that gap, maybe we can get businesses finding the right marketing partners faster. And so to date now, I've talked to over 981 different marketing agencies and experts, and I work with about 11% of those in my vetted network.
Oh, nice. Okay. So you're really choosy then. You got a hard filter.
Yeah, there's a big filter, and the filter keeps getting harder year over year as I get even better at what I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay. So with that, let's jump into how to find, vet, and hire agencies. I thought maybe we just kind of talk broad strokes, like what are the different kind of agencies that are out there? Because we have all different size companies that are listening to this. I know you got SEO, you've got paid ads. What kind of agencies do you have in your network?
Yeah. So, it's quite wide. So you start off with like, for example, when I say agency and experts, like I have people that do fractional CMO type work, where it's the strategies with the talk that we had. Yeah. There's branding, websites, Google Ads, SEO, social media, copywriters. There's copywriting agencies. You can go all over the place across the map when it comes to different marketing agencies and partners. And then there's like unique ones too that people don't really think about. Like, for example, if you're a large enterprise, and you have multiple different subsidiary companies that you own, someone needs to do the design for all those companies. And do you hire individual ones? Or there's for example, one marketing company in my network that is literally built to handle that type of design load. So they do like 44,000 assets for just one company a year, right? Nice. And so there's like really niche ones there too. And then you find like your creative, your UGC, your influencer. There are so many different agencies, and it just depends on the different marketing strategies businesses are running.
Okay. So yeah. And that was the first place I was going to go, really, is size. So, you kind of explained it, you outlined it, like the bigger the organization you are, the more niche of an agency you're probably going to look for to solve a certain problem. But you also might look for maybe like a title agency or primary agency to handle a lot of things. It depends if you're local or global. It's probably a different flavor for every type of effort that you want to put forth.
Yeah, I typically explain it in terms of like there's like 5 different levels of marketing partners, and the different levels actually correlate with the size of business.
Okay.
And so if you're starting out, let's say 0 to 500K, you're primarily working with level 1 type partners. And these are basically just like freelancers and people that you can offload different things to. So say you don't want to do your social media posting anymore, or you want someone to help you a little bit with your SEO strategy and build you out, what does the landing pages look like? What kind of blogs do we need to write? And then bringing in the copywriters to do that type of work. Once you kind of like pass that 500K range, you start getting between 500K and 3 million. You start working with more value-based agencies. So say that like a certain marketing channel is working for you. Mm-hmm. You typically want to hire an agency that's their primary thing. And then the other stuff is stuff they do off the side of their desk, which kind of helps you move your marketing forward on the core thing and some of the auxiliary things. Once you start passing that $3 million range, you start getting into like the 3 to 10. This is where it becomes more specialized. So you're either hiring like more specialized contractors like the fractional CMOs, or like agencies that do very specific things. Like you yourself, you do content, right? Like that's all you focus on. And so if a business needs that, you're not going to hire a generalized agency to help you with the content strategy. You'll hire like a specific SEO agency or a specific ad agency, and that's all they do, and they're really good at it. Then you start to get into like this level 4 range when you start passing that like, low 8-figure mark and start going up, is where there's certain agencies that have built out certain parts of the funnel. So they'll have like 3 or 4 teams that work in unison. So think like you have someone that's doing the ad buying to the landing page optimization and CRO to the email marketing aspect. So they're managing multiple levels of the funnel. These agencies typically cost anywhere between 10 and 20-ish grand in retainers. And so it's more for a company that's already more established and know what they actually really need and the funnels that they need optimized. And then you end up in the enterprise world where we were just kind of talking about it. It's like you'll have an agency of record. That agency of record, you might be paying a ton of money to a year, but they're hiring people in the back end, like the contractors and the specialists, to fulfill on whatever projects that you have. Or you have like super, super specialized type agencies that work with the enterprises to get, for example, certain commercials done or those types of projects, which now you're kind of seeing AI take a little bit more of the front and center, where internal teams are taking over some of those stuff.
Yeah. And AI is kind of across the board too, because it's helping in different ways at different levels. So most of the people I think listen to the show probably would slot around level 2 or 3. And so what they're looking for then, just to kind of reiterate, is that they're looking for kind of a primary agency that's going to help them with the thing that's taking them to market. That's the way I would put it, because I think a lot of they're really still focused on sales, and marketing is going to support sales. So your go-to-market channel or motion is going to be primarily what you're investing in. And then you may have other freelancers or other, like you said, side desk efforts that same agency's taking care of, or maybe a different agency. Is that the way to be thinking about it?
Yeah, exactly. Like, so as you're kind of going through that phase, you'll have that one agency that helps you kind of get to market, get things in front of the right people. And then you start getting more specialized as you get to a certain level. You'll notice when you'll need to, right? Like you're going to be asking your agency for specific things. You're like, this is not done at the level that I want it to be done at. And at that point, when you start asking those types of questions, that's when you know you need to upgrade to the next level.
Yeah. We see that a lot on the signal media side, where we do a lot of podcasting with our clients. And so they're bringing us in sort of as a specialized agency to help them with this one effort that bleeds, the outcomes kind of bleed into the other efforts that they're doing. But they have other people that are helping with branding and other people that are helping with, LinkedIn ads and, performance ads. So that makes total sense. That structure is great though, because I think I know a lot of marketers that don't really even understand that structure. So I think the fact that we have that to start is great. Yeah. One other thing that comes to mind in a marketing director or head of marketing leading the pathway for leadership to find an agency, vet an agency, and do some work is culture fit. How much is culture, both the agency culture and your organization culture, priority?
I think it's massive. It's like in the top 3 things that you should be looking for, because it's just like bringing on a team member within your organization. If they don't have the right culture, they're not the right fit, it just brings everything else down. And the key to building a scalable business does come down to culture, right? Like as things grow, what keeps everything together is the culture of the organization. Yeah. And so if you're bringing outside partners that don't fit your culture, you're basically going against what you're trying to build. Yeah. And so it's a massive aspect. And so there should be those soft questions businesses should be asking agencies around, like, hey, what are your values? What matters to you? Like, how do you get back to things? And typically knowing the founder of an agency and how they think will kind of tell you what the culture of the business is. So for anyone that's like hiring those agencies that are a little bit larger so that they actually have sales teams in the middle, I would almost always recommend like at least talking to the founder if you can get access to them. Anytime that I'm vetting an agency, especially if they're larger, I'm like, I still need to talk to the founder because I need to know where their heads are at. Like, are they in the business long term? Are they? You might not get all the answers that I'm getting when I'm asking those questions, but typically what I'm looking for is like, are they looking to sell? Have they built a really good culture? Do they enjoy what they're doing? What's their vision for the agency and where they're headed? Because that's all going to affect your business in the long run.
Yeah, and the benefit to having someone like you as like a third party, like you said, you can go in and ask these questions and they'll give you the answers where they might not to a prospective client. Because you're going to be able to tease out, are they just churning through clients? Like what's really going on with this culture? Because I've seen a lot of, especially ad agencies, they're going after that ad spend And, and in web design companies too, they're always, looking at that next project to get that next hit of cash flow, but all their clients are here left in the dust.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And you got to be watching out for that. I mean, almost every ad agency right now has the same ICP, right? I was kind of laughing the other day where they're like, our ICP is someone that's spending $50,000 a month plus. They've had another agency that they've been burnt by, and then they come to us. And I'm like, that's the same ICP every other person in this industry has, right?
That's not an ICP, by the way.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I'm like, that doesn't really work.
By definition. Okay, so let's expand this a little bit. Let's say I'm a head of marketing. I'm going out to, take either our go-to-market strategy that we've been deploying internally and looking for someone to help support us there, or we have a new effort that we're going after. We haven't done any work on yet. We're experimenting. Like, what are some of the first things I need to do when I'm going out to look for an agency?
Yeah. I mean, if you're in that role of marketing director or strategist, like having what the strategy is initially, right? Like know what channels you want to be using before you actually go looking for different agencies and partners, because then you can be more targeted in what you're trying to look for, right? Like if you're going out there and be like, well, we need to get more leads, so we're just going to go talk to some, full service agencies. What ends up happening there is like there are no real full service agencies. They're just going to sell you what they're really good at. And so, you go in, we're just going to run Google Ads because we think that's the best way to do it. Under the hood, they're just basically mostly a Google Ads team and maybe like one SEO person. So they don't really recommend the SEO piece. And so if you don't know what you need in terms of like a marketing strategy, like bring in an outside consultant, figure that piece out of like what channels make sense, so that when you're speaking to different agencies, you at least know what you're looking for. Mm-hmm. And then based on that, you can kind of like navigate and just know there are no full service agencies, especially in the mid-market and small space. They don't exist. And I say this in the nicest way possible because I've talked to close to 1,000 at this point. And if I haven't found it, I don't know how you're going to find it.
Yeah. Yeah. Marketers are sort of in the Wild West still a little bit, and like in terms of education that's out there and leveling up in their career and these type of things. And, I feel for them because it's not necessarily a straight and narrow path like some more like hard science type, paths are. So, just out of the gate, they don't have a lot of like traditional education on, how to know where to take the marketing, where to take the company, and how to report to management, all these things. So they're really trying to learn on the job mostly in this role, no matter really if you're head of marketing, you're learning, you've learned a lot. But so they're taking this sort of mishmash of experience and education and trying to go to market and lead. And I always think about like, if I walked into Home Depot or Lowe's and you see all these cool tools and you're like, oh, the one they have there on the end cap, that one's really cool. And you start talking to the guy who works there and you're like, well, what does that tool do? And he's like, oh, you wouldn't believe it. I built the best deck off the back of my house with this tool. And you should build a deck. Right. And it's like, that's totally backwards from how you should shop at a store like that. You should go to your home and say, what do I want to build? And you say, well, I want to build a deck. Okay, what do I need to build a deck? And then you end up at this store to buy the tool and you're not even really talking to the guy either at that point. And so if you're a seasoned marketer and you're more well-rounded and educated, then you're going to have more of these plans together. When you go to market, you're going to be more established with your vetting for agencies. But there's a lot of marketers that are not. So I think that's the issue that we come into, is that they're looking to the agency to solve the problem when the agency is really more of a hammer for a nail.
Yeah. Yeah. They're a tool. Agencies are a tool. Right. And most people use them. And so that was a great analogy, right? If you're thinking about using an agency for strategy and then like execution, like you're just using them wrong. You have to come up with a strategy and then you figure out which agency is the right one for the tool, which tool to basically use for that, your project to go to the business. Most agencies haven't grown businesses, right? Like they're growing their own businesses and they barely do their own marketing. Yep. So relying on them to do your marketing strategy is probably a pretty quick plan to just not succeed until you figure that piece out.
Okay. So let's say that I have a strategy, I have a plan, and I know what agency I'm going to look for whatever effort that I'm going after. What are some good markers that would let me know that this podcast agency, this SEO agency, whatever it is that I'm doing, that they're qualified, that I should, possibly start a relationship, but at least start a conversation. What are those markers?
Yeah. So I think if you're a business owner or someone in a marketing position looking to hire a specific type of agency, one of the best things I can recommend is if you don't have the network, like try to reach out to as many as possible and have as many meetings as possible. So most people, when they're having meetings with like marketing agencies, they'll talk to like 2 or 3 that were referred by a friend or by another business owner. And then they'll pick one of the 2 or 3 and they're like, all right, we're done. Right.
Yeah.
But to kind of give you an insight of like how I approach, even like outside of my industry, say I was trying to find an accountant last year because I had a certain accountant that I had to switch out.
That's a great example. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. My business was growing. Yeah. So, I was like, for one, I was like, I wish there was an accounting broker where I could see like, this is my business, what I need. Can you please just give me the resources?
Let me introduce you. Yeah.
Doesn't really exist, or maybe they do exist, but I couldn't find them. So I literally went out to my network and I just reached out to a bunch of different people, like who are you using for accounting? Who do you like? Who do you recommend? Man, I got like probably 20 or 25 recommendations. Just, I kind of have a bit of a crazy network. So I probably get more recommendations than most people, but just to show you an example.
Yeah.
And so I literally just started, like, I just created a little questionnaire sheet and I was like, give me the answers to these things. And the people that answered the questions the way I was like, okay, this makes sense. The pricing is around the right point. Yep. They deal with small businesses. They're based out of Canada, like all this stuff. Then I started setting up calls. So I talked to like 8-ish different accountants and just figuring out who they are, how their systems are built. So I basically use my same vetting process for marketing partners, but for the accounting range.
Right.
And just that process of asking all those questions, I started getting a lay of the landscape where, oh, pricing is typically around this. Oh, this is how much a bookkeeper typically costs. Oh, if they're doing accounting, it's like this range. And so I got a pretty good sense of like what the pricing should be, who does both. Not a lot of people do both. And then who's outsourcing, who's not outsourcing. And based on being able to just talk to enough people, I got a good sense of the industry, which made me to make a better informed decision moving forward. I also still knew that like the likelihood of me finding someone right the first time was likely not going to be that great. It's probably 50-50.
Sure.
Luckily, I got on the other side of that 50-50 side where I love my accountant now.
Yeah.
But that's just kind of the process that you would need to take on the marketing side as well. Just meet as many people as you can. You'll start noticing patterns. And when you start noticing those patterns, you'll know, oh, like these 3 guys talked about this, but this one went deeper. Mm-hmm. Okay, they clearly know more about certain things because these other 3 guys seem to be very surface level, right?
Yeah. And it would seem like too, as you're going through that process, if you're really making note of your interactions, you're learning about how to buy. You're going to, like you just said, like there's going to be things that some people say that others don't, and it's going to open up another door. You're going to say, well, actually, if we went to market looking for an agency in this way, we could probably get a better deal and, it meet our needs better. So there's a learning process that happens there too.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a whole learning process there. And that's kind of like when people use my service. Like, so I have some people that will come in, like we've already talked to like 5 SEO agencies. I'm like, cool, great. Like, do you want to talk to like 3 of mine? Because if you talk to 3 of mine, I've talked to hundreds at this point. Like if the out of the 5 you have beat the 3 that I have, then you like, that's going to be a good partner to choose before you're there. And so it's kind of crazy to me when I have like customers come in and they're running a business and I'm like, yeah, it only costs $1,000 for me to give you a bunch of recommendations. And they're like, no, we'll just go there. I'm like, you're about to spend $3,000 to $6,000 a month for at least 6 months. Why would you not want to protect that investment with $1,000? Even if my service doesn't work.
It's funny. It's like trip insurance.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, you just bought these tickets. 80 other people insured these tickets. It's like, yes.
That's exactly it. And so it's kind of funny because almost every time someone does use my service and they talk to other people, they typically like 9 times out of 10, they end up picking my partners. So I'm like, cool, the insurance works.
Yep, it does. Yep. Okay. So what about this idea of checking references? Because, you go to pretty much any website, the agency's going to have a bunch of testimonials that they've curated and, all of that. I was looking at something the other day and there's someone trying to kind of answer this question of, do you like as an agency, do you provide references? And, there's kind of 2 sides to this coin because it's like, I could provide you all the people who are going to talk and say great things about me.
Yeah.
So I could provide you references, but you calling them disrupting their business and you wouldn't want someone to do that with you. It's like, so I don't know, where do we stand on all this?
It's a tough area. So I think always check references. But you have to do it when you're serious about hiring an agency. Yeah. Like, don't just do it right in the beginning. Be like, hey, I'm about to hire you. Like, this is basically the last step. And so there's kind of two ways to go about it. One is obviously the agency is going to give you references that are going to say good things about them. You already know this. But having, like I have actually a reference check guide that I built that I give to my customers when they go through to ask a bunch of different types of questions. And ultimately, you're just trying to pay attention to when you're talking to someone, are they the same type of person as you? Like, do they have similar types of businesses? Are they like really in tune with what that marketing agency is doing? Because a lot of times you'll notice when I talk and I check some references is that like a business owner will be like, yeah, they're great. They're doing good. I'm like, what are they doing great at? And they're like, I don't know. They send us a report. It looks good. My marketing person says it looks good. Like, but they don't actually know. Right.
Oh my gosh,
And so you get a bit of a sense of like, oh, okay, what kind of relationship is this? And the depthness of what they get into the answers for, like, hey, yeah, they're really good Google Ads partners. They're checking stuff all the time. They're giving me an 11-minute video that I watch. They've increased my cost per acquisition by X. Like those are when you hear those types of things, you're like, okay, this is a good reference.
Yeah.
The other thing that you can do is ask for, and not all agencies will do this, but can I talk to a customer that's left you in the last 6 months? Mm-hmm. Right. And if they say, oh, they left because they grew so much and they grew so much that they brought things in house.
It validates it. Yeah.
Validates it. Right. And I'll tell you pretty much 9 out of 10 times, it's not the story that the agency was told. And it's not the agency's fault because people are afraid of conflict. And so therefore they'll say, we're taking this in house, but then they just move to another agency.
Yeah.
So you get a lot of insights through that process. And just be aware of just those different types of things as you're reference checking.
So where would someone go to look for good agencies? Obviously, if they didn't come to you.
Yeah. They didn't come to me. This is hard. This is the hardest part, and why I do what I do sometimes. I'm like, I don't know how business owners can do this in this world, because there's some marketplaces that you can go to, right? Like people go to the Fivers and the Upworks of the world, or if they're hiring people like the market hires of the world. But a lot of those platforms are not great. Like the success rate is very, very low. The next place people typically go to is like Clutch. And they go through there, but a lot of stuff on there is also paid placements as well. And people they choose the reviews that they want. So it's really hard, to find really good marketing partners. Typically, if you're part of different business networks, you can ask for referrals there and kind of go down that path. But what I've realized running my business is that the best marketing agencies are deep within networks. And so they're in like you ask businesses for, the different people that they work with and that they like. And so you add them. And then once you find a certain layer of partners that are good, you start asking them who they know. And because like excellence kind of breeds excellence, and people like to keep those types of people around them. And so you kind of have to look at that as like a network layer. If you have nowhere to go, you start with Google, you start with the marketplaces, and then you start within networks of business communities. There's a ton of different marketing agency communities around, which is the stuff that like I try to get plugged into a lot. And that's kind of where I start finding like really good people. But you have to be a marketer, or someone running a business to be in those groups. So like you almost can't get into those groups even if you wanted to.
Yeah. Well, it seems like if you want a great agency to handle this effort, a great agency is going to be covered up. They're going to have high demand because they're already going to have been doing what they're doing for some time. They have great references, all these things, but they're already not necessarily fully booked, but they're covered up. And like you said, they've found what their sweet spot, probably in a niche somewhere that's working. And so, that's where it kind of comes back to, how do you get to that agency? Because if you don't get to that agency, you're going to get to maybe a good agency, but it's going to be somewhat diluted because they're not in high demand. And they may not have had the experience or time to do what you need to be done. So there's some experimenting they're doing on your watch. It just seems like that's the whole game. Yeah.
It's exactly it. So like, think about it like this. So say you're trying to find a Google Ads agency, right? They're not running SEO. They're likely not taking care of their website because they don't really care about that. All they do is they run Google Ads. Like that's it. Are they going to run Google Ads themselves? Yeah. Probably not, because it's so competitive in that space. So there's literally no way for you to find this partner unless you find a business that's working with them, or someone that's a connector into there. Like there's people like myself who basically refer into these types of businesses. That's the only two ways. Maybe another marketer that knows them. So it is only through referrals and connections to really get to the good people.
Yeah, it's like you have to reverse engineer good work, and get to the people who are doing good work. But then how do you figure out who's running the greatest ads? Because you can type your competitor in and see that they're running ads. We don't know if that was a fluke because that ad was a good ad, a bad ad.
Yeah. Yeah. And if you look at your competitor, like the likelihood is that agency is not going to work with you anyways, even if you find them, because
Yeah.
they're working with your competitor. So it becomes a conflict of interest.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, you can go try to poach and that kind of stuff. But if you get someone that's like, if you can poach an agency from a customer that they're doing well for, like right off the bat, that tells me that integrity of that agency is not very high. And so why would I want to hire them? So like, that's also a losing game.
If she'll break up with him, she'll break up with you.
That's exactly it. Someone else will bring more money and it's going to be a different scenario. So it's hard, man. Like that's why I stayed in this business. Like truthfully, 2 to 3 years into the business, I was questioning, like, why am I doing this? I've met with like 300, 400 agencies at this point. I do a lot of work. And I'm like, I still need to meet more. I'm like, this is not done. And it was a big question for me. And like, I would sit there, I'm like, and sometimes some of my matches don't work, right? Like I'm like, right, probably 70, 75% of the time, the likelihood of you getting a really high level agency for me is much better than you doing it yourself.
That's right.
There's always this thing where sometimes it doesn't work, whether it's like the business doesn't know how to communicate with the agency or vice versa, or something breaks within. And I take those hard because I really want to do a really good job for the people that come to me to grow their businesses. And the answer I always came back to, and my wife also would tell me this, is like, Behdad, if you weren't there, how would they do it without you? And like that answer, every time, like, there is no other good way of doing it. And this is the best way I can think of doing this, being in the space that I'm in.
Yep.
And so that's ultimately what's led me to continue doing what I'm doing. Because I'm like, there is no better way. And I haven't been able to engineer a better way for it yet either. Still thinking on that.
Yep. Yeah, no, I think that's well said. And it's such a drawdown on time and energy and resources to vet and hire an agency to help you grow your business and do whatever you need to do. And then spend the time with them and spend the money with them and try not to, fall out of love with them or them with you or, that whole thing. So, having a little kick in the front end of like, hey, you can trust that, a much higher percentage you're going to already be down the road.
Yeah.
Is where it's at. Before we wrap up, I had one more kind of question for you. So, a lot of agencies are very notorious for selling hard on the front end and not delivering on the back end. This is kind of follows agencies around, in this domain. If we look at like, even if you find a good agency, right? First 90 days, second 90 days, like the first 6 months of first year of that relationship, whatever it may be. If it's running ads, obviously like you're talking day to day, SEO is a little bit longer term results, outcomes. What should a marketer, how should they be thinking about that relationship in, early on days and then later on days?
Yeah. I mean, it's a great question and it's going to always depend on the type of agency you're working with, right? Like, so for example, if you're hiring a paid ads agency, initially the first 30 days is the onboarding piece, like just really understanding your business, understanding what ads are going to work, all that different kind of stuff, building out the creative, getting you onboarded, like just getting everything like set, right? And then between like the 30 and kind of like the 90-day period, like testing should start happening. You should be having different types of creative and all that different kind of stuff, getting stats back, building a baseline, seeing kind of where things are headed, and having a lot of those like one-on-one touch points. Like make sure you're having like not just monthly meetings, but like, every 2 weeks, especially in the beginning, you want to build those relationships. Mm-hmm. And then once you start getting to like that 6-month range, like things should probably start settling in a little bit more where, you're testing different things, you're following the strategy and you're kind of moving forward. You might notice that the agency is doing less work because things are a little bit more automated at that point and there's less like upfront stuff, but you want them to continuously be testing depending on the strategy or the platform that you're on, right? So then this all depends on the type of agencies that you're working with, right? If you're doing like a branding and a website project, that strategy is entirely different. There's still an onboarding, just make sure they have systems and processes in place. So as you're doing the interview and vetting, you can even ask, like, what does it look like to get onboarded? Like, what does it look like? Like, do we get into Slack? Do we get put into Monday.com? Do I have to use these different types of tools? Like, what does it look like and what do you need from my side? And if you get a pretty detailed answer, it tells you they have the right systems and processes in place to kind of get you through. Those are the kind of things you're looking for. And then once the relationship starts passing a year, like just having check-ins, just making sure that you're right on the right page and moving things forward. And you don't always need to like shake the boat. You know what I mean? Like marketing, like if you can get things running and it's running smoothly, and even if it's being ran at like 85, 90% of what it is, it'll hit the flywheel over time to get you where you need to be.
Yeah. A couple thoughts on that. I think checklist and sort of client facing SOP thinking is something good to be looking for in an agency. I'm sitting here on one of my screens looking at a document that we're working with a client right now, first 90-day checklist. of build, launch, and running a podcast. And we literally, here's what it's going to look like. Do you want to do it? Right. And if they say yes, I mean, this is supporting the sale. And then after they say yes, we literally just start working on that list. And then we scratch through the things so they can see that we're making progress on the time and date. So a checklist is good. And I think another thing that kind of goes to what you're saying is, like I'm running an agency, so I'm in a little bit different position. But if I were sitting in a marketer seat, I would be looking at agencies to be leading me.
Yeah.
I'm paying you the money to help us with this particular effort. I don't really know what we should be doing past, for this specialty. That's why we're hiring you. So I need you to lead me, as short time frame as needed, checklist or whatever, and show me the way. Right. Yeah. And if the agencies aren't doing that in their whatever form or fashion that works, then there's a problem there. If they're waiting for you to constantly give them the next task, then that's a huge red flag.
No, yeah, 100%. You said it right. Like you're hiring them to kind of guide you across their specialty, right? Like, right. And I think there's a distinction between like your business and your objectives and your goals versus what you hired them to do. Because a lot of businesses say like, oh, you should be running all this other marketing stuff. Like, no. You hired me for like Google Ads, or you hired me to do content. Like,
yes,
they should be leading in those specific areas. And then you as a business owner should be leading the strategy.
Yeah. Deliverables and outcomes. They're two different things, but we need to map everything you're doing in a relationship to both. So, hey, we delivered everything, but the outcomes we didn't achieve these outcomes, or we fell short. Okay, let's have a conversation about that. We think we can make that better. We delivered these outcomes, but the deliverables were not there. Well, okay, that's a different conversation, right?
Yeah.
Generally a more positive one, but still, why was this stuff not done? So, I think being led, I don't see it a lot, so we always try to over-index on leading our clients and really being in there, helping them. And I think there's a balance too, because clients get put in their bit of work as well. But I think that's a huge deal. Marketers need to realize like, hey, okay, I'm hiring you now, lead me through this.
Yeah, no, it's really well said. And I fully agree.
Okay, well, this has been awesome again. Thanks again for coming on and talking about this aspect of a marketer's world. This has been great. I think it's super valuable.
Thank you for having me and giving me the opportunity to speak about the agency life.
Okay, so again, if people want to find you, where do they go?
Yeah, the best way is my website. So www.cjammarketing.com. And I'm on LinkedIn. So if you write Behdad Jamshidi, you'll find me on there as well. And I'm always happy to chat with people and help them across the journey.
Yeah, it's great. It's a wealth of resource there. So check them out. And I wish you well.
Thank you. You as well.